This is the Bethune-Cookman University Wildcat News Feed on Sirius XM Radio Channel 142. HBCU, broadcasting from the Wildcat Lab in Daytona Beach, Florida. WELE 1380, The Cat. It's time to hear the good news from BCU.
Good afternoon and welcome to the BCU Wildcat Newsfeed, also known as #TalkTuesday, the place where you get the real, raw, and relevant facts about what's going down on the campus of Bethune-Cookman University. I am your host, Franshawn Reed-Barnes, and you are listening to WELE 1380, The Cat. Today we have with us our special guest, Miss Najeda Harris, a BCU Wildcat alum, class of 2016. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. We are so excited to have you with us today. So let's just get straight to the chase. So last week, BCU kicked off a schedule of very controversial commencement events. It started with consecration, which went very well, and then it moved on to the wreath-laying ceremony, and then culminated with the reception in honor of the graduates. Now, on Wednesday, it went viral. Commencement went viral on Wednesday, May the 2016, because Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, was you all's commencement speaker. And amidst several students asking that she not speak, the president allowed her to do so. And so when she got up to speak, 374 students stood up and turned their backs on the Secretary of Education. Now, about 20 remained standing during her speech, and then most of her speech was overshadowed by boos from the stadium. And with this, there were multiple reviews from various different people. There were a majority of people that supported our students at Bethune-Cookman University and applauded them for finding their voice. And then there was another majority who felt like the students were rude and that they didn't utilize this global opportunity and platform to the best of their ability. And if you actually go on Bethune-Cookman's Facebook page, you can see the numerous comments that represent various different demographics across the world. So let's go ahead and get straight to it. Tell me, do you believe BCU students utilize their global platform responsibly during the 2017 commencement? Why or why not?
Actually, I do. So oftentimes when people utilize students, or they look at students as individuals, they forget that they are in fact individuals. There are a group of students that actually had the opportunity to meet with her, express their views and platforms with her, and then there were students that chose not to. So do I agree completely with the way in which they went about it? Not necessarily. Do I believe that there could have been a better outlet or a better usage of the platform that they had on the grand scale of things? Yes, there could have. But I would say yes, because you can't combine or group all students into one category and then say the students that did not actually use their voice in a particular way that we might have liked as alum or as individuals, that the students as a whole did not. So I believe that, yes, they did.
Okay, so let me go ahead and say that we are live. So I want to encourage you, if you're listening, to call in and let us know what you think. Let us know, do you think that the students of Bethune-Cookman University utilize their global platform responsibly during the spring 2017 commencement by standing up and turning their backs on the Secretary of Education as well as booing her? Now, while we wait for those calls, you said that you agree with some portions and then you don't agree with others. So
Yes.
you were there on graduation day,
I was.
is that correct? So tell me what part of the protest you agreed with and then what part of the protest you might have done differently.
So looking at the students from actually being there in the audience, the students themselves were very peaceful. Even if individuals agree with them turning their back to the secretary as a sign of disrespect, they were very quiet and calm. They stayed in their seats. They stayed in their placement. I believe that it was more so the audience and friends of the university and students of parents of the students from the university that actually made it more of an uproar. Different organizations came with shirts and had their own private and hidden agendas against the secretary, and I believe those are the individuals that took away from the moment and the shine of the students that were graduating at the commencement service.
That's a good point. So you're saying that you don't believe the peaceful protest by them standing up and turning their backs on her was out of order, but it was more so them booing in the stands and not allowing the students and others to hear what she had to say. Is that correct?
Exactly.
I think that's a really fair opinion and perspective, and I mirror your sentiments. actually. Now, a lot of people have started making this a race issue. And so I want you to tell me, do you think this is a race issue? You've seen some of the comments that people have said. Do you think it's a race issue?
Race issue as far as?
A lot of people, if you look at the comments on Facebook, let me actually read you. One, it says, accommodating the white man doesn't work. Respectability doesn't work. The issue isn't how you act or what you do to please the master. The issue will always be race. Your skin color or blackness is the issue because your social identity as a black person trumps your individual characters. Sometimes being a good black is more offensive than being a thug to the white man. Understand that no matter how much you change yourself, their evil and calculated and heartless and illogical hatred will persist. Hashtag be yourself.
Wow. And I definitely feel like that comment itself was an example of people using their own private agendas or hidden agendas and placing that upon the students. From what I've heard from the individuals that had an opportunity to meet with her and the students that met with her at the roundtable discussion, she was respectable. When she spoke to them, she didn't come with any agenda of her own. She just wanted an opportunity to hear the needs and concerns of our students and faculty and staff from the perspective of an HBCU. So, no, I really don't feel like it was a race issue. It was more so an administrative issue, because if she was a woman that came from Obama's administration, regardless of her race, students and faculty and staff wouldn't have felt that way. And the previous commencement, as a 2016 graduate, we had Donna Brazile as our commencement speaker. No one made a notation of that, even though it was a political thing. She is a political figure. She served as a chair for the DNC. She's known for political commentary. She's directly associated with CNN. There wasn't an issue there.
That's a really great point.
Yeah.
That is a really great point, and I'm actually want to get back to you that with you on that on a later question. Being there, I wanted to share something as well. It really broke my heart to see the comments, because for me, I thought that this was a great opportunity for our students to change the perspective of the majority about a minority.
Yes.
And I think that, like you said, people saw what they wanted to see. And so people chose this opportunity to say, you know what, this minority is disrespectful. This minority doesn't know how to treat people. And I wonder if we had done something different, or if we hadn't booed and just turned her back on her, if people would have had a different perspective, or if it would have remained the same. I wonder if we could have won in a different way, if it would have been a win-win situation hadn't they said anything, or would people have said, you all don't have a backbone, you should have stood up and had your voice. So I think it's kind of a two-edged sword. You know, you can't win either way.
You really can't win either way, and it's just a situation where no matter what, someone's going to have an opinion. People are going to agree to disagree. I'm grateful that nothing escalated further than the point that it went to. And I definitely believe it was a great opportunity for her to hear us. The thing that bothered me more so with the individuals that were opposing her attending, they had no real reasoning as to why they opposed her attending, other than they didn't see her being fit for the position that she was in, which are points that are debatable. But with those debatable points, they no longer matter. Now that she's in that role, she's serving in that position. There's really not much that you can do to remove her from that position. So do you not work with her? Do you literally turn your back on her and let her not attend? And as an institution of higher learning, which Bethune-Cookman University is, I feel like it's disrespectful to shun one of the highest individuals in education in America. So
that is a great point. Now I'm sitting here and I believe we have a call on the line, so I want to go ahead and open up the line to our caller. Who are we speaking with?
Hello, I just wanted to call and say that I've been listening to the radio quite a lot, and I've heard people comment that Bethune-Cookman students disrespected Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos by turning their backs, and they asked the question about the students at Bethune-Cookman, do they have any manners? What were they thinking when they did this? So I just want to hear from you guys. This was an insult to the Secretary of Education, a lot of people thought, on the other side, you know, Caucasian people who are looking at us as a college. So I just want to hear your thoughts.
Najeda, I'll let you take that first.
Okay. Well, it definitely, of course, was a sign of disrespect, but it was purposeful. So, I don't want to say that Bethune-Cookman University students don't have manners, and this is an issue that I don't like. So, when looking at the legacy of Bethune-Cookman University and looking at the legacy of the students that they're creating and they're leaving behind, I don't think that it's fair to judge individuals from one time that you've seen them or one action that they've made and discredit everything that they've done before.
I think that's great, Najeda. And to piggyback off of what you said, having been in the actual auditorium when it went down, I don't believe that the students of Bethune-Cookman University were disrespectful. I have a personal relationship with many of them. I think that they were put in a situation that they did not ask for, and they found a peaceful and respectable way to share with Secretary DeVos how they felt. They stood up and they turned their backs on her. What most people don't know is those 374 students that stood up and turned their backs and the 20 that remained standing during the entire speech were silent. They just stood there. It was the audience who began booing so that they could not hear her. Do I believe the audience was disrespectful to continuously chant and not allow her a chance to speak? Absolutely, because I believe you allow everyone a chance for their voice to be heard. And just like she heard our voice, I think that we owed her the right to hear her voice, which the students did. So that's my opinion. I think the students were respectful. I think the audience took it to a different level, and I think we always owe it to someone to hear someone out, because how can change take place if both parties aren't listening?
Yes.
So that would be my perspective for the caller who called in. Thank you so much for calling in. If you're just tuning in with us, the question for the day on Talk Tuesday is, do you believe BCU students utilized their global platform responsibly during the spring 2017 commencement? Call in and let us know. Did they utilize their global platform on Wednesday, May the 10th, responsibly by standing up and turning their backs on Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos? So let's keep moving forward, Najeda. Now, do you believe the administration should have done something differently in handling this matter? Because a lot of people saw the fallout leading up to it. There were petitions. There were protests. Do you think they asked for this?
I would say no. In a situation like this, things had to be handled differently, especially with an individual of that stature. She had to go through certain clearances, and there were different things that had to be done as prerequisites to allow her even to be able to come to the campus to speak beforehand. So things were a little bit different. And I think the biggest discrepancy that I heard individuals that are fellow alums and friends of the university, and they just felt a little bit left out of the process because the process had to differ. But I don't think that this is solely the responsibility of administration. I think it plays both parts with administration, faculty, staff, as well as student leaders on campus. So one of the biggest concerns that I heard is that individuals from the senior class weren't allowed the opportunity to express themselves and choosing who they wanted to come. But that's not something that you do the day before. That takes time and preparation. And so when you have individuals that aren't actively involved and they aren't proactive and they're more so reactive, can you really blame administration from stepping up or for stepping up and taking that role and serving in that place and saying, this is what has to be done and this is what we have to do? So I definitely see both sides of it. People being upset and people feeling like their voice wasn't heard and feeling like they changed things and they weren't done how they were done in the past. But you also have to look at the situation at hand and realize that things were done differently because we were placed in a different situation.
Okay. Now, do you believe that the response from our followers on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram would have been different if the shoe was on the other foot? What do you think people would have said if you had a black official attend a predominantly white institution and they stood up and turned their backs on them? Do you think the conversation would have been different?
The conversation would be completely different. It would be turned into a race issue. Her credentials wouldn't matter, even if people felt that she was able to be and serve in that role, and it would be completely different. And this is an issue that I don't value. It's just the hypocrisy. So just like you said, if a black woman official was to go to a predominantly white institution, say an FSU or a UF, and students had the same reaction, we would be up in arms. We would be up in arms, and we would be upset, and we would feel highly disrespected as a people. So why would we not allow her the opportunity to attend our university and hear our voice and hear our concerns? And this was an opportunity even for individuals that aren't attending the university specifically or don't have a direct relationship with the university. This was a time for HBCUs to come together. This was a time for HBCU alums to come together and say, here are our voices and our concerns, and provide them with her rather than shun her. A lot of the protests that I've seen and a lot of the peaceful or unpeaceful demonstrations, there was no list of suggestions. There were no ideas. There were no real consistent platforms as to why they didn't want her to come, or the request that they would have had for her if she did come. So saying that your number one concern is the success of the HBCUs and the success of students that attend HBCUs, how can you say that they're your primary concern if you had no requirements or no expectations of her attending?
That's great. That is absolutely great. Now, being an alum, do you know any student who chose not to stand, who was in favor of her attending? And if so, can you share that opinion with us?
Yes, I actually do know students that didn't oppose her attending, and their primary concern was, of course, the strength of the university and continuing the university and the platform that we need to continue, and the legacy that Dr. Bethune left behind. And I feel like she's an intricate part in the decision that we made and the decisions that are made on the behalf of the university. So something that has come up continuously is what would Dr. Bethune have done? And for individuals to say that she would not have done the same or would not have done something similar don't understand the legacy that Dr. Bethune has left behind, and they simply don't understand the history of Bethune-Cookman University as an institution. Just to go back to the question of students being in favor, one of the main points from the individual that I'm referring to was that Dr. Bethune would have done this, and this is something that is going to be useful for the continuation of the university. So why shouldn't we continue to do this, even in modern times?
Now, looking at some of the comments on Facebook, and if you're tuning in with us and you can't call in, please feel free to visit www.facebook.com/Bethune-Cookman UNIV and let us know your opinion there, because I have a feeling we'll be talking about this some more next week. A lot of people have been saying on Facebook, good luck with getting a job.
Wow.
Your students don't know how to handle controversy, because when you have a supervisor you don't care for, when you have a manager you don't care for, you don't get up and turn your back, you don't walk out on the job. So what is your response to those comments?
I feel like those comments serve some level of validness, but at the same time, they don't. You can't compare a situation where students feel pressured, students feel like there's no other option, there's no other platform to express themselves, and that's how a lot of the students felt, which caused them to stand up and turn their backs. When you're in a situation where you have a manager or a supervisor, you're given the opportunity to have conflict resolution. There was no conflict resolution presented to the students in this opportunity and this platform that would have allowed them to have that conversation. So I feel like that's an ignorant comment to make in comparison.
Now let me ask you, if you were a part of the graduating class of Bethune-Cookman University, would you have stood up and would you have turned your back on Secretary Thomas?
Personally, I would have not stood up and turned my back, because I was actually in favor of her attending the university and speaking at commencement. I wouldn't. But I knew students or know students that did, and I understand their points as well and their concerns of not feeling able to express themselves in any other way than to turn their back and show disapproval.
Now, I personally, and I think I said this earlier in the show, I commend the students of Bethune-Cookman University for finding a respectable way to share their voice and their opinion, because they felt like they weren't being heard. Is there a message that you would give to the class of 2017, now that this is over, now that they have gone out into the world? What would you say to them moving forward? Because they literally went viral. They made history. There is another institution that decided not to invite a controversial speaker because of what they saw our students do, and they knew that they had set a precedence for protesting during commencement. What would you say to the class of 2017?
I would just say that you guys are extremely courageous. Whether people agree with your opinion or not agree with your opinion, it took a lot of courage to stand up for something that you truly believe in for whatever the reason of your belief. And I would say just moving forward, never let that shine dim because of someone that you don't agree with. There's definitely been different situations that you have gone through that led you to this point of becoming a graduate, and other situations that you'll continue to face in life. And you should never let that dim your light. So yes.
That is a great and powerful message. I believe we have a call coming in. Who are we speaking with? Welcome to #Talk Tuesday.
Hi, I'm Warren. I thank you for your conversation today. I might just like to add my opinion, if I might.
Absolutely.
First of all, I believe we need, as a nation, we need healing more than anything else.
Yes.
Our dependence on our mainstream media, and I'm part of the media. I've been in radio and television most of my life. But it's so shameful to me that we can't trust any of these sources on what we hear. I look at this in the incident at the college recently, and I know it must have been a dividing force to decide what to say or do when you want to oppose someone for coming to speak, but at the same time you want to grant people the right to speak. And I think our idea of fighting back and resisting and all this sort of stuff is really sort of a reminder to a time 40 or 50 years ago when people were divided tremendously by the media, when the civil rights movement really reached its peak with all of the protests and demonstrations. If you depended on the media back then, you would either be angry at this group or angry at that group. There was no dialogue even back then. It was almost like there was a force to split us. So I believe we need healing. I believe people need to stop and look and listen and pray for wisdom. I believe we need to have God's intervention in our affairs more than anything else, because otherwise you follow the banter of one group or the other. And it's only after 30 or 40 years we look back on, even on civil rights movement, and realize what a treasure it was to be part of that, to be able to stand with people of color and say, hey, we got something going. But it seems like at every turn of the road in America, when we see a movement that has a foundation of faith, there's always the payola people that come in to take a piece of the action. And there's also this idea that we're 100% right, they're 100% wrong. Now looking back, I realize I didn't do anything. I thought I was doing something for civil rights, but I was just kind of nodding and agreeing with people who wanted to hear one thing and nodding and agreeing with people who wanted to hear the other thing. So when you look at the kids that are leaving and graduating and going off, I hope they have some looking back to realize that, wow, maybe we could have done it a little differently and not made the national attention to show us boycotting or fighting something. We could say we listened and then we made our comments after her what she had to say. That's just my opinion, and I really hope that we do have dialogue. I do hope we have healing. I don't want to be a left-right, white-black, Christian, Jew, or anything else culture. I want people to have a point of agreement and say, let's agree that we should pray for healing, first of all. We should hear each other and pray for one another and encourage one another, and not go through another era of 40 years to look back and say, gee, we could have done it differently, couldn't we? That's my point. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for calling in for Talk Tuesday and sharing your perspective. I think he hit a really great point,
Yes.
Which was it's really about trust and it's about love. It's not about being on the left side or the right side. It's not about being black, and it's not about being white. One thing I noticed that he really hit on is that when it comes to change and it comes to progression, we only change people through love. We don't change people by hate, and that's biblical. And so I think when we can love on each other and not turn on each other and hear each other and not boo each other, that's really where change takes place. And if you really step back from the situation, and I'm sure Najeda will talk on this some more, this really was a time of love at BCU for those who really got to open up their minds to it. We had a prayer breakfast with Secretary DeVos the day after, and she met with students, and the first thing she said was, this is not about me. I want to hear how I can help you all. What do you all need from me? And I just think that's so monumental. so monumental. Can you
Yes.
talk some more about that, Najada?
And I definitely agree. Thank you for the caller that just made those points. And just to reiterate on some of the things that he said, it's so polarized right now, right? It's just right or left, it's black or white. And this is an issue that is a nonpartisan issue. This is an issue that shouldn't be polarized. Education is universal. And that was the point of the secretary coming and attending. It's to advance education, and it's specifically to advance the education of HBCUs and minority students in the surrounding community and even nationally. And when, like I said before, when people place their personal agendas on things and their personal hardships, it becomes a little bit difficult because people are very distrusting for mistakes that were made or poor choices that were made in the past that have nothing to do with the secretary. And the negative emotions and feelings and just lack of trust are being placed and projected upon her. And I feel like in that situation, it was not fair because we did not give her an opportunity to speak. And also, we were so upset as individuals and as a community that we didn't allow ourselves the opportunity to speak. And that's the biggest point. We were so flustered as a people and as a community, generalizing as we didn't give ourselves an opportunity to speak because, for one, it's just a sense of learned helplessness that we didn't believe that we would even have the opportunity to speak and that our points would be important. And so that's something that disrupted me a little bit, more so than the booing and more so than the backs being turned. We didn't give ourselves the opportunity to come together as a people, not for the sense of hatred or dislike or distrust of someone else, but for the advancement. I didn't hear many conversations where, as a community and as alums, that we came together and we were able to say, okay, we aren't pleased with this situation. This is what we can do. These are our requests that we would like, and these are the things that we feel could personally advance the university. How can we get these messages to her directly so that we can be affected positively?
Yeah. That's great. That is absolutely great. Now, I want to be fair to what happened in the actual auditorium on commencement day.
Yes.
While they did boo, there was a portion of her speech where you could actually hear what she was saying, and people got quiet. And for me, that memorable moment was when she took time to specifically talk about 3 students who were graduating on that day from Bethune-Cookman University. And we all know that politicians have speech writers, et cetera, and so you can say whatever you want to say. But the fact that she even thought enough to research or to ask about the stories of 3 students at HBCUs, which she could use education on, she took that opportunity.
Yes.
I don't know how many graduations I've been to where the speakers speak, but they don't know the stories of anyone who was walking across that stage. Can you share with me a memorable moment from her speech on that day or from the prayer breakfast? Or, can you share a memorable moment?
Something that was more so memorable to me was in her actions, in her role as the secretary. So one of the poignant points that I listened to was the fact that she expanded Pell Grants to being year-round. And that's something that's going to affect the students even further out from the commencement and their personal experiences, but students that will come after them as well. And if they choose to pursue graduate education in other areas or pursue a different degree, the Pell Grant being expanded to summer months will definitely assist in benefiting our students.
Thank you so much for giving us an educational perspective on how her visit directly impacts HBCUs.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much for being our guest on hashtag Talk Tuesday. Today, I want to close out with some good news happening at BCU. HBCU Records is set to release their first mixtape during HBCU Records during the fall, October 2017. And we also want to congratulate our own Wildcat BCU alum, Latia Brown James, for receiving a scholarship. You have heard it here first on hashtag Talk Tuesday, the place where you get the real, raw, and relevant information about what's going down on the campus of BCU. Join us next week at 3 p.m. Until then, find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Bethune-Cookman University.
On October 3rd, 1904, a very determined young black woman, our founder, Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, opened the Daytona Literary and Industrial Training School for Negro girls with $1.50 and faith in God. Today, those same values stand: faith in God. When looking for a university to further your children's education, there's none better than Bethune-Cookman University. The university is guided by its core values. First, F-I-R-S-T. F as in faith. We recognize and uphold the first Christian tradition while welcoming the diversity of faiths. I for integrity. We live in a way that reflects our deepest convictions. R for respect. We recognize the inherent dignity and worth of each person. S as in service. We seek social justice through civic engagement. T as in thirst for knowledge. We are engaged in the continuous pursuit of learning that transforms us and the world. Go to our website at www.cookman.edu/admissions or call 386-481-2603 or 1-800-448-0228. Your first step for the future starts at Bethune-Cookman University. Enter to learn, depart to serve. Bethune-Cookman University.